Welcome to Therapy Shorts 53. My name is Dr. Nicholas Jenner. Before we get into today's subject, I'd just like to remind you that on the website there'll be some journaling questions to download from this particular video, and also check out some of the programs on my blog, the onlinetherapist.blog, especially Therapy on Demand, which is a self-help codependency recovery program, and the Recovery Coaching Program, which looks at how I can help you between sessions. And lastly, don't forget that if you need some deeper work, I do offer a free consultation with no obligation. So let's get into today's subject. Here's the truth we avoid. When you're trying to get over a breakup, healing requires loneliness. But staying where you are requires suffering. One feels uncomfortable, the other destroys you slowly. We generally avoid the space needed to heal because it's uncomfortable. Instead of facing the pain head on, we soothe ourselves with food, escape, doom scrolling, and even worse, new relationships that fill that void. But it is in that void and the silence that comes with it that healing truly begins. So welcome to Therapy Shorts 53 with me, Dr. Nicholas Jenner. These are simple clinical insights designed to help you understand yourself with more honesty and less fear. So today's topic is one that most people run from, because it shines a light on the very thing we don't want to admit. Sometimes the pain we're in isn't coming from the healing, it's coming from the place we refuse to leave. Let's start with the uncomfortable thing that sits right at the heart of today's episode. Healing requires loneliness. Staying requires suffering. People often imagine healing as cozy, warm, a self-care journey, candles, baths, gentle music and journaling. And yes, those things can help you regulate. But healing isn't soft. Healing is separation, and it's hard. Healing is all about loss. It's all about having space. Healing is the painful process of walking away from people, behaviors, addictions, and relationships that no longer fit who you're becoming. The real work happens in the quiet moments when you're finally alone with your own thoughts. And most people don't actually want that. Because loneliness forces honesty. Suffering, on the other hand, is familiar. When you remove yourself from a dysfunctional dynamic, whether it's a codependent relationship, a narcissistic partner, an avoidant partner, or even a family system that doesn't work, you create a vacuum. And vacuums feel terrifying. Your nervous system goes from constant hypervigilance, constant managing, constant emotional labor, constant conflict to stillness. And stillness feels wrong. And I see this all the time in therapy. I've heard from clients things like, I left, but now everything feels empty. I'm alone, so maybe I made a mistake. I don't know who I am without that chaos that goes with that relationship. That emptiness isn't evidence that you made the wrong choice. It's evidence that you're using the relationship to avoid yourself. Loneliness is where your identity starts to regrow. It's where you can hear your own voice again. It's where you can finally ask, what do I want? What do I need? Who am I? And how do I get to that point? And that's why healing requires loneliness and separation. Not isolation for isolation's sake, but intentional space. Room to feel, room to grieve, and room to rebuild. Now let's talk about the other side. Staying requires suffering. Most people don't stay because they're happy. They stay because they're terrified. They're terrified of failing, being alone, disappointing someone, of losing the few scraps of validation they're getting, or terrified of the unknown. So they stay in toxic relationships, unbalanced relationships, relationships when one person gives everything and the other gives nothing, situations where walking on eggshells becomes a lifestyle. And they stay because the suffering is painful, but it's very predictable and consistent. And predictability feels safer than uncertainty. Psychologically, the brain will always prefer familiar pain to unfamiliar peace. And this is why people go back to exes who hurt them, why they re-enter cycles they swore they'd left, why they accept breadcrumbs, why they avoid tough conversations, why they tolerate behavior they would condemn in anyone else. It's not stupidity, it's not weakness, it's nervous system programming. Suffering creates a chemical cycle the body gets used to. Breaking that cycle feels like withdrawal. And that's why staying can feel easier, but costs you everything over time. Most people imagine loneliness as a void, but loneliness is fertile ground. And here's what actually grows in that fertile ground. The first thing is emotional clarity. When the noise stops, you finally notice the anxiety wasn't you, it was the relationship. The self-doubt wasn't yours, it was projected onto you. The exhaustion wasn't normal, it was survival mode. It brings identity. When you're no longer managing someone else's emotions, you have space to rediscover your own. It brings self-respect. Silence gives you ability to hear when something is wrong. You start recognizing your boundaries instead of abandoning them. You have a nervous system reset. Your brain finally gets to recalibrate without being constantly triggered. And there comes a return of self-trust. Loneliness is where you relearn that you can rely on yourself because you have to. And that's a true antidote to codependency, individuality. Staying in a relationship delays the inevitable. Here's the hard thing about it, and I say this clinically, not critically. Anyone who stays in a toxic dynamic long enough eventually loses themselves, piece by piece. Their confidence fades, their voice softens, their standards lower, their boundaries disappear, their intuition shuts down, and they start rationalizing behavior they'd never tolerate from anyone else. The suffering becomes your normal. And I've seen many clients say, I don't recognize myself anymore. And that's the cost of staying. Healing is painful. Staying is destructive. One hurts now, the other hurts forever. So, how can you tolerate the loneliness required for healing? Let's be practical. Here are some steps that I often give to clients. Number 1, very important. Don't romanticize loneliness. Structure it. Have routines. Have small goals. Have daily anchors. Have purpose. Even something like getting up in the morning and making your bed, getting up at the same time every day, does help. Number 2, build micro connections. You don't need a partner, you need support. 1 or 2 friends who understand is enough. Journal daily. Loneliness becomes growth when you reflect, and journaling should be all about reflection. Try to separate emotional need from emotional habit. Ask yourself, do I miss this person, or do I miss not feeling abandoned? And let the grief do its job. Grief is not a sign you've made a mistake. It's a sign that your nervous system is recalibrating. Let those emotions come. And number 6, stay in the present moment. Loneliness hurts most when we time travel mentally into the future or the past. Stay here in the moment, not in the past and not in some kind of imagined future. And number 7, track your progress. Weekly check-ins. What did I tolerate then that I would not tolerate now? What strength did I show this week? And where did I honor myself? These tiny little recognitions compound and they really help. So, when you choose healing, you're choosing yourself for the first time in a long time. Loneliness is the doorway. It won't last forever. It's a temporary bridge between who you were and who you are becoming. But staying in pain, staying in dysfunction, staying in self-abandonment, that becomes your identity if you're not careful. So I'd like to set you a weekly exercise. For the next 7 days, ask yourself this one question at the end of each day. Did I choose healing today, or did I choose suffering? You'll be stunned at how quickly the answer becomes obvious. So thanks for listening to Therapy Shorts with me, Dr. Nicholas Jenner. If this spoke to you to something deep in you, you're not alone. You're simply waking up. Healing is lonely, yes, but it's also the most honest part of your life. So if you like more episodes like this, subscribe so you never miss the next Therapy Short. Take care of yourself until next time.